Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Saturday morning and it's very breezy here in Northern England, but I have got my fancy pants lapel mic on, so hopefully the wind noise won't be too bad. So the Kiely Rodni case is getting stranger and stranger. At the beginning of this case I was 50-50. This could very easily be an accident or it could be foul play, and I don't know. I'm 50-50. Either of those things could have occurred. When the friends started talking, Sammy, Mags, Kate, Jagger, but especially Sammy, my spidey senses started tingling and I was like, there's something very odd here, very odd. And I went from 50-50 to 90-10. 10 accident, 90 foul play, especially when they checked Prosser Reservoir several times. Prosser Reservoir was closed off to the public. There's photos of this, and this was the Tuesday and Wednesday after Kiely disappeared, so that would have been Tuesday the 9th and Wednesday the 10th of August. Shortly after that time it was reopened to the public, but there were still divers going in, swimmers going in, and they didn't see her. They didn't find her. When Adventures with Purpose found her, they made the comment to camera. How did they not find her in this relatively shallow piece of water? But then I switched again, that this is now, looks like an accident. When Adventures with Purpose found her, where they found her, I made videos, several videos, saying, look, she's just turned the wrong way. She's gone right instead of left. She thought she was on the right road. She's hit the gas. It's dark. She's perhaps impaired, intoxicated. She just hasn't realised until it's too late. So I was 90-10 in favour of an accident, but there was still that potential that there's some foul play involved there somewhere. But then Adventures with Purpose released their video, how they found Kiely Rodni. And the details that they gave us made me switch again. And I'm in favour of foul play now. I've still got accident firmly on the table. I do. Adventures with Purpose have said several times that Jared's been on panels, Doug went on a panel last night, that in that hatch, in the boot area, that yes, you can get to from the vehicle, from the back seats, you can climb over into the hatch. But they find that highly unusual. And how could she have got there if the car was already upside down? And yeah, I see that. The only way I can conceivably see her getting in the hatch, on her own as an accident, is if she was already in the back seat and she was trying to get through the window before the car submerged, because the back window that was half open wouldn't submerge straight away because the car would float. Adventures with Purpose said it'll float for 2 to 10 minutes, but perhaps a minute, I don't know, it'll float for a little while before it submerges enough for water to come gushing in through that open back window, and then she'd have no chance. But what if she'd already got in the back and then the car started to submerge, water gushed in, and she scrambled into the hatch for those last pockets of air? I don't know. It depends. It depends when the car flipped. The car didn't do a somersault. It flipped on its side, flipped over onto its side. So it would have been really confusing and really disorienting. But that's the only way I can conceivably see how she could have ended up there and it be an accident. But what if it isn't? What if there is foul play? Because roadside assistance guy talking to Adventures with Purpose, seeing them, in a Best Buy car park in Reno and stopping them and speaking to them. Now, before I go any further, let's be very, very clear that roadside assistance guy had already talked to law enforcement When he realised that he had potentially... Tilly, come here. There's a dog over there. Tilly. Tilly, this way. Tilly.
6.5 hours later.
Absolute clown. Hey, hey. Tilly. This way. Do as you're told. When you're told. Silly girl. Oh, there's more dogs over there. Right, I'm going to put her on a lead. So that I'm not interfered with. So that I can concentrate. Alright, so where were we? And at this point, my fancy pants lapel mic decided to run out of charge. So, yeah, where were we? Because this is 2 hours later, and I'm now doing a voiceover. So, if you hear background noise, it's because my house is, I don't know, it's noisy. So, where were we? Right, well, roadside assistance guy saw a poster in Reno. He's from Reno, Nevada. Saw a poster and realised that potentially he saw Kiely Rodni around 11 a.m. on Saturday the 6th of August. So this is big news, right? This should be really big news for law enforcement. And he called it in to law enforcement. But it was about a week later because he didn't know. He didn't know she was missing. He just saw a poster. Remember, people had been to Reno putting posters up and he saw one of them. He called it in. His company locked down the dashcam footage that had been stored in the cloud. They locked down the call log. So that was all sent to law enforcement. Law enforcement have the dashcam footage. They have the call log. So they will know exactly what time, what vehicle was called in, like the license plate, etc. And they'll have the phone number from which the call was made, because the girl said that her phone was dead and she'd called roadside assistance from the young man's phone who was with her. So let's be very clear on that it was called in. It wasn't Adventures with Purpose who were the first people to hear this. He had called it in. Right, let's be incredibly clear on that, because people are still asking that kind of question. This entire conversation might be irrelevant. It might be a moot point, because if law enforcement have already thoroughly investigated this tip and they've concluded that roadside assistance guy was wrong and this wasn't Kiely's car at all, it was just a car that looked like it, and it was a girl that looked like Kiely, a girl with long blonde hair, and a boy who can be described as looking like Jagger, Kiely's ex-boyfriend, it could have been already ruled out, and we're none the wiser. However, it's unclear whether that tip was looked at straight away. It's still unclear whether it's still been thoroughly investigated or not. Adventures with Purpose did call law enforcement to ensure that they did have that relevant information, and I'm presuming that Adventures with Purpose will have sent the full unedited interview that they did with roadside assistance guy and his girlfriend. We've only seen a fraction of that interview. They're holding the rest of it back, and they'll release it only if the investigation goes that way. That's exactly what they've said. Okay, so for the rest of this video, let's assume that roadside assistance guy is right and this was Kiely's vehicle. The dashcam footage should have clear information to identify the man, the young man, and the young woman who were there at the scene. Adventures with Purpose have said that they have a positive ID on the man. Now, is that Adventures with Purpose who've ID'd him, or is this law enforcement that have ID'd him? Because if law enforcement have ID'd him, then an arrest should come very soon. Because if Kiely Rodni's car was in the possession of this young man, and a young girl who wasn't Kiely, that's probable cause for an arrest. And if that was Jagger, if that really was Jagger, then he's got to be very, very nervous right now. And is that why he's reacting so badly towards Adventures with Purpose? What he's putting out on social media is angry. As I talked about in my video yesterday, he's angry. Now, is he right angry because he's been wrongly accused and it wasn't him? Or is he angry because he knows the game's up? That whatever game they played in ringing roadside assistance, it's backfired. So an arrest could come very soon. Now, it could be that that young man isn't Jagger, and Jagger's angry because he's being wrongly accused, and law enforcement don't know who he is. Adventures with Purpose are wrong. It's not Jagger. They don't know. Right? Law enforcement doesn't know. And it's now up to them to work on finding that guy. Because they'll have a phone number for him, but what if he's ditched that phone? We don't know. Okay, not knowing what law enforcement knows, let's do a little thought experiment. Let's assume roadside assistance guy is right, and this was Kiely's vehicle. And the young man may or may not be Jagger. Right, for this thought experiment, it doesn't actually matter whether it's Jagger or not, but it's somebody who is responsible for whatever happened to Kiely to result in her being dead and her and her vehicle ending up in Prosser Reservoir. And the young girl isn't Kiely, but is pretending to be Kiely. So why would they take the risk? It could be that genuinely they thought the car was broke and they had no choice but to ring roadside assistance, that they got to Boca Lake, perhaps spent a few hours there, like working out what to do with Kiely, and Kiely's dead at this point, and they thought the car was broken. Now, if this was Jagger, right, Jagger allegedly likes cars, he photographs cars, that's what his Instagram was all about before Kiely died, he would know, surely, how to take a car out of neutral, right? Because the only problem with the car was that it was in neutral, so it wouldn't start. So it's feasible that if this wasn't Jagger and this was somebody not familiar with driving a car, that they didn't know that. So that was a genuine call, and they took that risk because they had no other choice. Or what if it was a tactical move? What if these two people pretended that the girl was Kiely, you know, because she could pass as Kiely, and of Kiely's friends that we've seen so far, Kate is the one, in my opinion, who resembles Kiely the most closely. Now, that doesn't mean to say this young girl was Kate. I'm just saying that of Sam, Mags and Kate, the young women that we've seen that are allegedly Kiely's friends, Kate is the closest. But it could be somebody else. It could be somebody else. But the girl has pretended to be Kiely in Kiely's vehicle in a tactical move to kind of like get an alibi that Kiely was alive on the Saturday morning and she was at Boca. So almost like she was running away with the boy. Maybe that was their plan, to get this ID on Kiely. You know, were they not bright enough to realise that roadside assistance would have a dash cam? I don't know. But it could be an attempt to kind of create a kind of like an alibi for Kiely. It could also have been them asking stupid questions like, how do you put a seatbelt on? It puts DNA or fingerprints, touch DNA or fingerprints from an unknown male in the car. There's reasons why people who've perhaps, you know, never committed a crime before would go down that kind of route to attempt to throw law enforcement off the scent. Maybe the intention wasn't to put the car in Prosser Lake. because that move was very, very risky. Maybe the original plan was to do something else with that car. So they've rung roadside assistance to create this ruse, and then perhaps they've changed their mind. So the next part of this thought experiment is thinking, well, how come, if Kiely's already dead at this point, and they're at Boca, a few miles away from Prosser, why did they take the risk to go back to Prosser and put her car in the lake? Well, they could have thought that they were performing a genius move, that putting her car in the lake very close to where the party was makes it look like Kiely was drunk and she had an accident. Jagger has said as much. She had an accident. Anybody could have had an accident like that, driving near the shoreline. That she didn't ring roadside assistance, and how would he know that? But yeah, they could make it look like an accident. Potentially a genius move. So the next question is, would they have had the time to get from Boca, put the car in the lake at Prosser before anybody really searched for Kiely? And yes, there is time. There is time. This is why it's really important to know where Jagger was, to rule out Jagger. Like I said, in this thought experiment, it doesn't really matter whether it's Jagger or not. But have law enforcement ruled him out? In the absence of knowing that, let's wonder about it, because Jagger's alibi is he was fishing with his dad. That's why he didn't go to the party, he was fishing with his dad. Now, what if he did go to the party? What if he turned up at the party, you know, after 10:30 when Kiely texted him? What if he wasn't 3.5 hours away in Napa? What if he was at that party all along? But we don't know. Now, it's been said that Jagger turned up about noon. Kiely's mother realised Kiely was missing about 8 a.m. She woke up at 8 a.m. and she realised Kiely had not come home. Now, Kiely was meant to be going on a camping trip with her friends and meeting them at Starbucks. So Kiely's mother thought that, you know, maybe Kiely just hadn't come home, maybe her phone was broken and she couldn't call back, maybe she'd had her phone stolen. So she went to the Starbucks where Kiely was meant to be meeting her friends around 9 a.m. and obviously Kiely didn't turn up. So that's when Kiely's mother became really worried. Maybe she started ringing around Kiely's friends, and Kiely's friends who had turned up there at Starbucks, maybe they started kind of making calls to see if they could identify where Kiely was. Maybe she'd stayed with a friend. And somehow Jagger was contacted. Now, if he was in Napa, 3.5 hours away, I mean, it depends specifically where he lives around the Napa area. It could be 3, could be 4 hours, but let's just say 3.5 hours. And let's say he was called at, let's say, 9:30. Well, if he got in his vehicle and drove straight to Truckee, he'd be there about 1 p.m, which kind of broadly fits this timeline that allegedly he said he got there at noon. Maybe it was a bit later than that, unless he drove like the wind, or unless he was already in the area. But if this was Jagger at Boca Lake, and he's covering this up, was there time? Yeah, there is. Because although Kiely's mother, Kiely's family and her friends were worried, no real searching started until the 7th of August, till the Sunday. That's when organised searches started to go out. It was only at 5:41 p.m. was the first social media from Placer County Sheriff's Office to the public. The screenshot that I'm showing you says 1:41 a.m. That's because I took the screenshot from my time zone. So I'm 8 hours ahead of California. So the actual time wasn't 1:41 a.m. It was 5:41 p.m. That's the earliest social media I can find from Placer County Sheriff's Office reporting Kiely missing to the world. But as I said, organised searches only started going out on August the 7th, on the Sunday. And then Prosser Lake wasn't searched until the Tuesday the 9th. So there was time to get that car into the lake. Now, if they're sitting there at Boca, whether it's Jagger or not, whether it's someone else, and they panicked after roadside assistance guy had left, and maybe they realised, oh, he's got a dash cam and we're panicking now. And they thought, right, let's just dump this in Prosser. Let's just take the risk and dump this at Prosser to make it look like an accident. It's only half an hour, and if they went by the back roads, they missed the traffic cameras, and I don't think there are other traffic cameras on those back roads. Yeah, they could get there to the sanctuary in half an hour, well before the world knew that Kiely was missing, and well before any organised searching. And no one would have noticed. No one would have noticed. It's very risky to do that in the day, or they could have waited till night time. If they waited till night time, then there's even less chance of them getting caught. So there is time to get that car in the lake without being noticed. It would become increasingly difficult as, you know, the media became involved and social media became involved. It would be very difficult to get that car in at a later date. So if that's what happened, I think, my own personal opinion, is that it happened very quickly. It happened on the Saturday. They put that car in the lake on the Saturday. So the next question then is, what does the autopsy show? Because that's crucial. It doesn't matter that there would have been some external decomposition. I know it's not a pleasant thing to talk about, but there would be some external decomposition. But her internal organs, after 2 weeks, would be intact. And the lungs are the telltale sign here, obviously, because if she went in that lake dead, if someone had put her in that hatch, if someone had put her there, driven her car to Prosser, took her to the top of that hill, and then pushed the car down that hill, and it's 10 metres, the elevation change is 10 metres. I talked about this in a video recently, when I considered this could well be an accident. There's a 10 metres elevation change from the top to the water's edge. And they just push her over and the car goes into the water. Now, if Kiely went in that lake dead, there would be no water in her lungs. Whether somebody trying to, pass this off as an accident would know that, it's a fairly obvious thing, but would they know that? Would they think that at the time? Would they think they'd get away with it? But the autopsy would show this very clearly. If there's no water in Kiely's lungs, it means she was dead when she went in that lake. And they would know that the cause of death was not drowning. And it looks very much then like murder, like foul play. Whether this is intentional murder, whether this is something happened to Kiely at the party and she died and then it was all covered up. Whichever way, they've covered up a death. This is very, very serious, and that autopsy would tell all. Now, if there's water in Kiely's lungs, it means that she went in that reservoir alive, and accident is still then very much on the table. So it all hinges on the autopsy. This theory that a lot of people have, which is a very plausible theory, that Kiely was dead when she went in that lake and there's no possible way she could have got in that hatch of her own volition. It all hinges on the autopsy, because that theory does not make sense if there was water in Kiely's lungs. Unless somebody had kidnapped her and she was alive. They kidnapped her and she was alive. But where was she? If she was alive, where was she when roadside assistance guy got there? So we don't know. It all hinges on the autopsy. It really does. But let me know what you think about this situation. Do you think that's a plausible theory? You know, two of Kiely's supposed friends took her to Boca, maybe dead, and then staged an accident. Is that possible, do you think? I think it's possible. But we'll find out. We'll find out at the autopsy. We need those autopsy results. We do. Or just the cause and manner of death. We don't need the report. If the report's going to be sealed because she's a minor, fair enough. But we do, surely, you know, if this is foul play, let's be very clear. If this is foul play and this results in an arrest, then we're going to find out. We're going to find out because, you know, from the prosecution's side, the prosecutor has to make it public that the cause of death, the manner of death was homicide, and the cause of death is something other than drowning, and this was a staged accident. So I think we'll get to know the answers to these things. It's just a waiting game. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I've been Michelle. Hope you're well. See you in the next video. It's goodbye from Miss Tillington and Miss Cassie Springer. Bye, guys.